Began to open up and reform its economy in 1978, GDP growth has averaged over 9% a year, and more than 800 million people have lifted themselves out of poverty. There have also been significant improvements in access to health, education, and other services over the same period. You may be wondering why I began with Chinese. We are here to talk about Chinese development for African Renaissance. Let's see if we can learn anything from what they are doing presently, and of course to improve the living standard of our people in this part of the world. Good morning and welcome to the show. Good morning, Anambra Show. And today I have in the studio Ichie Mike Odumodu. Ichie Mike Odumodu is a management consultant. Good to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, viewers.
All right, also with us in the studio is Chief Nze Nwabeze Akabogo, who is a commentator on national and international affairs. Welcome to the studio,
and,
sir.
Okunubo the third. You have to add that.
You're welcome, sir.
Viewers, good morning.
You're welcome.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, now let me begin with you.
Okay.
Yes, to give us the background of what we are actually looking into. Over the years, we know that China, they are not where they are today just from the blues. Can you tell us, what happened between the time? From the introduction, they said over the years since 1978, there's been growth in their GDP, and a lot of people have been brought out of poverty. What do you think happened along the line?
Thank you very much. Yes, when we talk about China and their growth generally, both economic, social, cultural, and so on, it's not something that is happening by chance. Those years, they had a president called Chairman Mao. And this Chairman Mao is, up to today, they refer to him as their God. Because he was so much a good president that his government formulated so many good policies, and they continued to implement it. And that is what every other president that followed, that was what they were doing. They queued in. It wasn't when this person goes out, the other person will come and start afresh. They followed the program of Chairman Mao, and that is why today you see Jinping is the president of China. You see him everywhere. They are developing. They do their projections, they plan, and they follow it. So China is a country that is serious. You look at their population of about 1.4 million. Billion, sorry. The population of about 1.4 billion. They are not taking it for granted. So when China says 18, they mean it. China is there. Economically, they are growing. Socially, they are growing. So that is why you see that their GDP is on an average of 9%. So China is a country that has been there coming up. Before this time, so many years back, you see that countries like UK, Canada, America, they were the countries people were looking up to. If we have a product that is manufactured in China, they say it's inferior. But today, China is manufacturing everything, including our television, including most of the pressing iron we use. Whatever technology that is around, China is into electricity. China is into solar energy. So China is revolutionizing the world. That is China for you, and that is why the economy of China is growing. So China is leading. It's a leading world economy.
Okay, now Nze Mwabeze, how would you compare Nigeria and China amongst the two, who started development first before the other?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Before I go into comparison between China and Nigeria, let me add a little to my colleague's introduction.
Okay.
China has come a long way from underdeveloped third world country to a super country. And in global affairs, they have come a long way, like my colleague mentioned. It didn't start today. Their growth didn't start today. It started from Chairman Mao in 1949 when he took over power, mantle of leadership in China. And China went into what one would call the Cultural Revolution. At that time, China shut her borders against the world and began their transformation process. They shut all the borders. People outside the world didn't know what was happening in China. It was that period they started this transformation, and when they finally opened their borders to the world with a bang, they came out with a bang, then the world was marveled. The revolution in China, Chairman Mao introduced, he was the founder of People's Republic of China. And his party, Chinese Communist Party, was in charge. And everybody queued under the Chairman Mao. So it was really a miracle. Chinese growth was a miracle, to say that. And right now, China has conquered poverty, underdevelopment, right in their home country, and delivering on their massive productive population, that virtually they produce everything in the world. They now export to Africa all their goods and services, not only to Africa, even to Europe. Europe that hitherto was controlling the economy of the world. China has now, and with the disintegration of Soviet Union in the 90s.
Okay, now can you now go back to the question?
Yes. And coming back to your question, comparing Nigeria with China, I don't think there is any basis for comparison. There's no basis, because
who first started in development? Who was first? Because that's what we want to.
First of all, you have to go back to the history of Nigeria. Nigeria was a colony.
I know.
A colony under Britain, and we gained independence just in 1960. And from then, we started the Nigerian, and don't forget that Nigeria was an amalgam of nations, unlike China. Different cultural, ethnic diversity. They came together in 1914 under Lugard. But China had been a nation over several thousand years.
Are you saying, in essence, they started development before Nigeria?
Of course. Okay. And they were focused. They had a good leadership that propelled whatever development you have in China. Leadership is the key, which is seriously lacking, hopelessly lacking in Nigeria.
Okay, now, according to reports that China has been, they have achieved the fight against poverty, lifting nearly 100 million people out of poverty, according to the current poverty standard. And when you look at our nation, Nigeria, it seems the poverty level is rising by maybe because of inflation and so many other factors. Odumodu, can you tell us, what do you think China was able to do in their capacity as a nation to be able to achieve this great feat? It's a lesson for us to learn.
Yes, it's a very big lesson, and we're going to learn it now.
Hopefully.
Yes. Thank you very much. China, as a country, when we started by way of our introduction, we mentioned the leadership of China when we talked about the Chairman Mao. He laid a very good foundation for China. Aside the people that came before him, but from him, Chinese economy started to have a very big boost. He redesigned China, that this is the way they should move, and they turned into it. For instance, in terms of, I will give you two instances. In industrial development, the European nations were building magnificent buildings. When they want to do a project or to establish a factory, they will build a very big factory, very massive one, that even the money they will use to start up the factory might be engulfed in that building. But China came and said, no, for you to get a factory, a four-room, that's a small apartment, we give you what you want. So they started using small apartment. So that small apartment we give you, so you don't need to waste so much money. But within that small apartment, you achieve a lot. And that is why they taught this fish farming, where you can do fish farming in a small parcel of land. You put your blocks and so on. Within a small measurement of land, you do fish farming. Then you can use the tarpaulin. They introduced the use of tarpaulin in fish farming. You buy tarpaulin, you sow it, hang it somewhere at the corner of your house, and you are doing fish farming. You are getting fish. They taught us this, piggery, how to animal husbandry. You do it in a very small scale. So, in that way, by way of agriculture, technology, and all that, they were so simple and focused. So, and the government and the people followed it. There was no corruption. But come to Nigeria, you see that Nigeria will say we want to do this, we want to do that. For instance, 8 years of a government will come to an end by May, I think 29th May. And when you look back for the 8 years, you begin to say what is the achievement over these 8 years. You don't see it. So that is the problem with Nigeria. The leadership is so bad, the country is so corrupt that you don't even achieve anything within 8 years. It is suicidal. It is terrible. It's not even supposed to be mentioned. If it is in China, if you work and you are not able to deliver, within a year or two, you resign, or the person will be voted out.
Okay, now is leadership is the core, is the main issue.
It's the main issue in Nigeria. Leadership is our main issue. The other issue in Nigeria, that leadership, we have corruption issue and tribal issues. We are still mixing all these things. In China has overcome, tribal sentiments. Because if you go to China, you have so many tribes in China, even more than Nigeria. But you can't see it again. China has done social development by way of sports, way of arts, way of movies and all that. It's a very big boost to the economy. Like we have in Nigeria. Nigeria at the time copied it. This were African magic, Nollywood. And people would see how much that Nollywood is contributing to Nigerian development.
Okay, now hold it. You still get back to you. There's something that is coming to my mind when the present governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, when he took over the helms of affairs, there is one statement he made that you don't continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And do you think that is what is happening to us in Nigeria? That we don't learn, just like we are trying to learn today and see what we can learn from what China is doing in terms of development. Do you think this is what has been affecting us as a nation?
Yes, thank you very much. Leadership, lack of good leadership has been the bane of Nigerian society. We are talking about China, talking about the leadership, but talking about Chairman Mao, who set the ball rolling in China, and the other leaders coming after him followed suit. There was a focus. China was focused on where their objective. They were focused, unlike in Nigeria. Lack of cohesion, like my brother said.
So we've kept at a place.
Yes,
over a long time.
Lack of cohesion.
We are going even back.
Oh yes.
We're not at a place.
Lack of unity, cohesion, and colonial hangover is still bedeviling the country. Because the colonialists brought a policy of divide and rule. This man is an Hausa man, this one is Yoruba man, this one is an Igbo man. But in China, they have conquered that. Nationalism has taken over. Spirit of nationalism, that is what is propelling China's growth. Chinese, like my brother was saying about the economy, they developed the economy. Like I said, they are now exporting most of their products and services to the outside world. Name it: military, economy, technology. So we have a long way to go in Nigeria. And if we are lucky to get a good leadership in Nigeria, we'll do the line of China, and before you know it, we'll get there.
Now there is one thing that Chinese have done over time, which is promoting the spirit of patriotism. And when you look at Nigeria, an average Nigerian is not patriotic, let me put it that way. Do you think there is anything we can do as a nation to make our people patriotic? Because that is part of what they've done that brought about growth and development in their nation.
Yeah, thank you. You know, for somebody to, Nigerians to a large extent are patriotic. We are patriotic to a reasonable extent. Because for somebody or someone to be patriotic, it means that the government has done something. You have benefited from the government.
Yes.
Now that you have benefited from the government, you will want to pay back.
You'll be proud of your nation.
You will be proud of your nation.
Are we truly proud as it stands now? You know, we are having brain drain in our nation. We are having people are running away, and you're still saying we are patriotic.
To a large extent.
Okay. Let me see where you're going.
If we are not that patriotic, you see that one, there should be a revolution. If we are not patriotic, by now there should be serious revolution. There will be serious demonstrations in Nigeria here and there and at any point in time. But you don't see that. It is once in a while you see people, rioting or demonstrating. It's not common in Nigeria. So it is when the Nigerians are pushed to the wall, you see them reacting, meaning that they are somehow patriotic. If we have good leadership, that is where the patriotism will come out full. Because to a large extent, Nigerians love Nigeria. Nigerians love Nigeria. And the complaint of everybody is, whenever somebody will say the government is not doing well, and you don't see anything the government is doing. In a country like Nigeria, we are still talking about bad roads. You can move from one state to the other. In some of these states, you don't see there are no good roads, and we are still living within those states. We living within the country, where the government is building railways to other countries of the world using our money. building roads to other countries of the world using our money. But within the country, you don't see anything.
And we're still patriotic.
And we're still patriotic. So otherwise, the country could have been, broken into pieces. Sorry, you see. Look, for instance, you look at electricity supply. There's nothing like electricity supply in Nigeria. What we just see is I don't know what I will call it. They do whatever thing they want to do. They can give you that power from whether EEDC or whichever name they call it, within maybe 5 hours in a month. In a day, in a week, you might not see electricity, and we are still living. Every household
we are still patriotic.
We are still patriotic. Every household has about 2-3 generating sets. They go outside to buy fuel. They go outside to buy gas to use those things in their household. So you begin to wonder what kind of country are we living in. So Nigerians are somehow patriotic.
Okay. Okay. You will still come in, but at this point, let's take a short break. Let's feel the pulse of the masses on the street work. We'll be right back after the break. Let's see what people think about this topic of discussion this morning.
If you are borrowing money to reinvest for the development of our country, it's quite a different. But when we borrow money, it is a totally different ball game, because in this case, they are actually not borrowing money for the interest of the country or interest of the masses. They are borrowing money to siphon it. Okay, now, when you look at the MOU, they do sign with all these countries that they borrow money from, China, for instance. You'll see that, okay, in a case maybe they are consortium in a rail or so. You see that the workers that would do the same work with the Chinese, China will carry their citizens down here to do that same work. You will not have China can give Nigeria a loan of, let me say, $1 billion. That $1 billion will be materials for the construction that will still come from China, workers that will still come from China. So China, the money is still coming to Nigeria. It's coming to Nigeria to go back towards China. The fund, everything is still in China. The GDP still counts for China. So I think that as a country, we have to start looking inward. Even when we have to borrow, even when we have to deal with all these countries, we'll deal with them, we'll deal with them in a way that will also be at advantage. If Nigeria was a serious country, all these loans, you will know that we don't even need them. If we, given the number of importation we make from China, if we are a serious country, I believe that those companies in China will also start looking at coming back to Nigeria. And when they come back to Nigeria, if a company, for instance, opens up here, let me say that we have a factory here that people do come and buy and so on, and there is no good road here, they'll have to put road infrastructure. If there's no constant power, they have to contribute to Nigeria to give us a constant power. By that way, we are already modernizing ourselves and taking the like of what we have there in China and other countries. So I think the whole thing revolves around the corrupt system that we operate in this country. If that is gotten right, then other ones like industrialization, and when you have industries around, you now see the need of vocational education. People won't just be running to higher institutions to get a certificate that they cannot prove. People will not run to do a course that I'm an engineer when I know nothing about engineering. People will now focus on skill acquisition and all. And it is this skill acquisition that give birth to modernization. You see kids learning how to make computer, learning how to make toys. When a kid says, I like this toy, that kid can go to school and learn. Not just be about, I graduated from institution, I have this class of grade of graduation and so on. But we cannot make we cannot make anything out of that knowledge.
Every now and then you find someone invent this flying object or another. This motive engine. We heard of school students that for their thesis they worked on and produced a car and all that. They need institutional support. But if you ask me, I think that institutional support is also on the way. one of the problems we have is that we don't have enough information about what is already going on so that people can expand on it. This time we discuss, we think it's a new idea. I know that the federal government has been involved in instrumentally in the efforts to recover our say on Ajaokuta steel and some other base infrastructure, and that's going to be helpful because that industry is going to help cars to build bodies, it's going to help part of engine block building, it's going to help satellite dish and the rest of them. So it's something to encourage.
The truth remains that from time immemorial, we had this boy apprentice system that our people used to do. Maybe you bring somebody to come and learn a trade from you, and after so many years you settle the person to start up his own. But I think that if government will be able to put that into their schedule, it will help a lot in training our people, making everywhere to look so well. For instance, if maybe I train somebody now to learn how to do welding, and you find out that at the end of it, that government now helps the person by providing the necessary thing for the person, you find out that the business will move very well. So I think that what government will do is they should imbibe that system again, that skill acquisition system again. That is what will help our people in order to be like China.
We should start thinking of how we bring forth, materialize what we know as a country. The curriculum we run and so on, we start working on them as
All right, we've gone to the field to feel the pulse of the masses concerning the issue at hand. And you heard what the people are saying concerning development in China and how we can take a cue from what actually is happening there. Do you have any comments before we move on?
Yes. First of all, let me disagree with my colleague that Nigerians are patriotic. I don't think so. You have a docile society. Nigerians are docile. Anything goes. They are not bothered as long as they are moving around. That is not how to. You see, because patriotism is a two-way thing. The government has to discharge his obligation to the people to end that patriotic spirit, that patriotism. The government, like what I'm saying in China, China has developed in such a way that all the social amenities are taken for granted. Name it, electricity, good housing, roads, school, medical. It's only when you have those things in your country that the people will not give out their patriotism. But in Nigeria, you don't have them. It's seriously lacking. And how can you be patriotic when the government doesn't take care of? My colleague mentioned power, electricity. Yeah. For how many weeks now, we have no electricity. Nobody's bothered. Nobody's explaining. The people cannot say, why, what is happening? So I think we have a long way to go. Again, we are coming back to this question of leadership. If you have the right leadership, that with proper orientation, that is focused, that can unite the country. Because one of the big problems in Nigeria is lack of unity and cohesion. We don't have unity. That is
another important thing that Chinese has done over the years. They say there has always taken mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence as the basic principles of course. In handling international relations.
Nationalism.
And you think that we don't have it here?
We don't have it. So we have a long way to go if we want to emulate what is happening in China, we have to go back, we have to look inward.
All right, Odemodi, you were still saying something about patriotism. You said there's another part to what you've already said.
Yes, what I was trying to say that for Nigerians to be fully patriotic, because they are patriotic, actually, they are. If we are not patriotic,
docile. We are docile.
The country wouldn't be the way it is.
No, we are docile.
And looking at what Nze is saying about being docile, I don't think Nigerians are docile, because if we are docile, we will be docile in everything, even in the business we do. Even in the work we do, going to our work and doing, as if we are here in office now.
National affairs, national matters.
We are not that docile, and we are to a large extent, patriotic. Otherwise, this country will not be the same as it is now. Okay. Yes, that's my standpoint.
Okay, now we know that China is one of the countries that are lending Nigeria money. So yes, we borrow money from China.
Yes.
And my question now is it possible that Nigerian government, could liaise with Chinese to borrow their talents, borrow their specialists, to come and teach us what they are doing already that is helping them grow? Because it's growth that brought about the money they are lending to so many people. So what's your take on that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. You see, technology, to a large extent, is not borrowed. It's difficult for you to borrow technology, but you can, that's when we come to transfer of technology.
You can transfer.
You can transfer. But to a large extent, it's not something that they will come and be telling you exactly what they are doing. It's you that will, maybe Nigerians will be sent to China. That's
even this morning in the papers, in one of the papers,
yes,
I learned that most phones in the market today in Nigeria are from China.
90% of the phones are almost everything. Even the rubber file you use in the office, this is a plastic file you use in the office, is from China.
Name it.
The shoes, most of the shoes you wear, Chinese shoes, Chinese earrings, Chinese weave-on and all that. And
they've come a long way.
They have come a long way. So, in terms of technology, if it is the country that needs it, that will go for it. Send your people to China. Nigeria is supposed to send our people to China. Some other people will go to learn how do they manage their electricity issue. They go and study there. They go and learn what they are doing with that. They go to agriculture. What happens in agriculture? They go there. In terms of other infrastructures, they will go and learn and come back. When they come back, they will begin to implement, what they have learned. Nigerians, the government of Nigeria must be sending people out, especially to China, to go and learn, understudy China in most of the areas we need, and they come back. So when they come back, they implement it. There was a time the Chinese were in Nigeria. I think the Enugu state government brought them in, and they were kind of installing, not even teaching. They were installing a fish pond. They go to some certain areas and build fish pond, build organized piggery, animal husbandry. They did it in Enugu. That is why the ones we are having today, and again in poultry farming. They taught us how to do poultry farming on a small scale, and you are picking what you want. So the technology we are talking about is even being copied. The Chinese are even doing it because of their population and their magnanimity. They are doing it.
All right. Yes. Now I have my fears about Nigerian government sending people to China to learn one or two things and come back to implement. You know, as a Nigerian living in Nigeria, you know that most times one thing is saying something, another thing is doing it. Now, what do you think the government can do, you know, to actually see that when they send people to learn something, they will come back, because not just sending people, sending the right people.
Exactly.
You know,
right
to
people,
go and learn, and when they come back, they are ready to train others even, and also go ahead to implement it for the growth of the nation. Okay. Do you think there's a possibility to this happening in our nation today?
Let me come in here.
Okay.
China, they have this foreign policy. Okay. Their focus now is Africa, not only in Nigeria. They are virtually everywhere in Africa, transferring their technology. So, in Nigeria, for instance, the Chinese are building our railways, building our roads, building our seaports, construction of roads, and all that. And our people, I remember in the area of railways, people were asking the Chinese our people to undergo training under the Chinese experts that were handling the railway. They were imparting their knowledge and
where are they now?
In railway, I'm talking about railways. In railways, yes, they have taught our people how to manage the railway system. In terms of sending people to China, I remember that the governor of Abia State, the outgoing governor, once sent in people to China to learn how to make shoes and bags. About 7,000 people or something like that. They went to China and learned how to get those things.
And we are sure all of them came back to Nigeria.
They came back.
It might not be all of them anyway, but the reasonable number.
They came back and the government set up a conducive environment for them and they're producing. So I think the question in Nigeria, the problem in Nigeria is corruption. Corruption is one of the greatest problems we have.
That's why I asked the question, corruption. Sending people, sending the right people.
We don't have the right.
Ensuring that when they come back, they implement what they want.
We don't have the right frame of mind. We don't have the orientation. We don't have the conducive environment. Unlike China. That's what I'm saying. You see, where people regard themselves as one, they had a focus, nationalistic spirit, burning in them. That's why you're talking about patriotism. Nationalistic spirit must be in you before you talk about patriotism. Because the country has a lot to offer to you to end that patriotism.
Okay, now quickly, what's the way forward? You know, we've talked a lot about problems in this nation, which everybody knows about it. You know, everybody is feeling it. You know, and which even prompted the youth to say that we want to take back our country. Yes. Everybody has got it up to here. Yes. So what do you think the government can do, even the individuals can do? Because not all of us can run away from this country. Yes, even when we don't have any other country to call our own. So what do we do as a nation, as a government, and as a people?
We must stay in Nigeria and fix the country.
To ensure that we learn from these people and implement it for the growth and development of our nation.
Thank you. I think first of all, the government should know their responsibilities. Both federal, state, local government.
And obligation. They have obligations
to the people.
Yes.
They should make people, you know, to know that they are responsible to them.
Yes.
The people voted them in, and they must make sure that they work and make the people will benefit from their own money, because this is their money, this is their tax. Even when you are borrowing, it is the people that you are borrowing for. It's not for personal consumption. So the government had to shun corruption. One, the government should focus on economic development. With economic development, we will overcome. Once the corruption is gone, we go into economic development, we go into infrastructural development, we go into social development. Social development will bring everybody together. Without undermining this You know,
where you come
where
from.
you come from.
Who
People
you are.
wouldn't, if you're feeling from, you don't say Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Muslim, this and that, Christian. You know, we have to go into social development, which brings much more of sports, which has gone in Nigeria. No more sports in Nigeria. Arts. These movies, like we see in Nollywood, these are welcome developments. You know, then there must be technological development. We go and borrow from...
Which is where the world has gone now.
Where the world has gone now. Now that this electricity, we're having problem with that, we can go into solar. With solar, people wouldn't be bothered. These electricity people will be... They will do whatever thing they want to do with their bill of 20,000 per month or 18,000 per month. They go and do with it. You put your solar in your house and be enjoying it. Government should look into that. And again, into agriculture. In agriculture, government has to do whatever thing they should do to look into agriculture. Finally, to train our youths in all these areas. Once we are trained, employed, because many people have been trained. The next thing is to employ them or to encourage them to be on their own.
Okay.
Once we do all these things.
All right, quickly.
Yes. Let me talk about Chinese loans, soft loans.
We're wrapping up.
Yeah, they are now granting to Africa. I'm saying that we should be wary of their loans because we don't know the motive behind their loans. It appears that they are coming with a neocolonialism spirit. So we have to be very careful with the Chinese. We have all the resources. We have all the human and the natural resources to fix our country. It is left for us to harness these resources to our own advantage, the advantage of the country and the generation to come.
He who plays the piper.
Well, dictates the tone. So
that is,
at the end of the Cold War, the end and the disintegration of the Soviet Union, there was a vacuum in the world. So Africa became a pride.
All right.
So China had to.
All right, I think we have little time more to spare on this show, but let me quickly let you know that this program is audience participatory. You have our phone lines on the screen. You can call and ask any question or make your contributions to what we are saying here. And you can go to our Facebook page to drop your comment on anything you feel like dropping comments. The topic is Chinese modernization for African Renaissance. What do we learn from them? Now, we've set up setting an agenda for the government to key in, of what we can do to develop our nation. Now, what do you think are the challenges to actualizing all the points we've noted so far?
Thank you very much. Certainly, there are challenges. The challenges is some of the challenges are because if we want to start now, we have had a problem of what we call this disjointed system. The system has been disjointed. The system has not been put in proper place, meaning that anybody that comes in, maybe as a president, governor, and you want to start, you have a lot of load to carry. Because you have a lot of load to carry, the loads are the challenges. What you do is to prioritize. You prioritize your first 1 year, this is where I am focusing. Second year, this is where I am focusing. And so on. Within the 4 years, you may have touched, the relevant areas. Then if another person comes in the next 4 years, or the person continues in the next 4 years, within the 8 years, you know that you have to cover a lot of ground. But you can't finish it. The next government, because government is a continuum, the next government that comes, and it should be something that should be legislated upon and established, that when you come in, you don't abandon projects. When a project is in place, when another government comes in, You don't leave it and start to go to other areas.
And what happened to the ones already left that are, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
What will happen to them?
That is what I'm saying, that the government will start to go back to those ones. Prioritize. If those ones are the ones that are so important, the government has to go to it and start from there. Because there is what we call problem of sunk cost. A lot of money has been sunk into those projects that are abandoned. So if you leave them, you have the money sunk into it is wasted. So it has to be revised and bring up into shape. So government has to do that. These are some of the problems. So certainly things are not the way they should be. So every government in power has to start, prioritize, and be coming up gradually. Within the next 10, 20 years, we will cover the ground.
Oh, okay.
Certainly.
It's like you want to say something?
Yes.
Yes, we're saying the same thing, but I keep on hammering on leadership.
You know, we're looking at the challenges that we have as a people.
Yes.
What will hinder us achieving what we've outlined so far?
Yes, leadership is one of it.
Okay.
Because once you have a right leadership,
in place.
Then the people will follow. Once they see you as a selfless leader, you are not corrupt, people will follow you, and you have a focus. Like we are talking about China. One man, Chairman Mao, led the country into what is happening today in China. Yes. So we need this selfless leadership. And like I said, we have all the resources, human and natural, to be able to be self-sufficient in this country and even export. Countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, they weren't comparing with us about 20 years ago. We are very much ahead of them.
Okay.
We're very much ahead of them.
We cannot deny the fact that Nigeria is not deep into ethnicity and, religion, where you come from. We cannot deny that fact. Now, what do you think we can do? Because it was not this way before. I remember back then when we were small, you will see an Hausa man at Onko Market. Once you say Sanu, the man will want to carry everything and dash you.
Yes.
That is to tell you the level of, brotherliness back then. But I don't know what happened along the line. So do you think we can get it right, by letting go of ethnicity, religion, to be able to forge ahead in terms of development in this nation?
Let me just conclude before you. Okay. Yes, what you are saying is correct. And Nigeria, like I keep on saying, Nigeria is a product of colonialism. And we've not come out of that colonial hangover. So we have to devise orientation, devise a means how to unite the country, how to get the people together, how to instill the spirit of nationalism. Because once you have the spirit of nationalism, you don't bother where anybody comes from. When going to distribute amenities, you have to share it equally among everybody. So nationalism, leadership has to take the front burner. Okay. Leadership.
Okay, quickly. You want to go?
Thank you. What is saying is actually the position. Because if you look at the governments of Nigeria, and like with the time you were talking about, there are governments in Nigeria, when they were in power, this tribalism, ethnicity seemed to fizzle out. Yes. Some governments. Yes. For instance, during the Yar'Adua's regime, it wasn't noticed. During Obasanjo's regime, ethnicity wasn't noticed, and so on. Some governments like that. But during this present government,
these 8 years,
that was when tribalism, ethnicity was brought back into Nigeria.
It became so prominent.
And how did it happen? You start to see where the tribe will be killing the other tribe, killing the people from the other tribes, going to their farms. People were not farming and so many other people were not farming, you know. So, and when
so what do you think we can do to get out of that?
Yes, what we would do to get out of that is that when you are, you know, in power as the president, National Assembly, you don't allow ethnicity. Don't allow the other people to be killing the other people, because your person is the president, and if anything is happening, the president will come for you and rescue you. The other people become second-class citizens. It must be a president for everybody, National Assembly for everybody, and governor for everybody.
All right, we can actually get it right when we put all hands we put on deck, and of course we follow due process, and of course we know what we ought to learn. Cultural imperialism is not going to be a bad idea when we learn good things from other cultures and put in our own. Would like to thank you so much, Ichie Mike Odumodu, for being part of the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers all over the world.
All right, we also appreciate you, Nzenwa Beza Akabog, for coming. Thank you so much.
Yes. Nigeria still has the opportunity to develop as a great country. So let us put our hands together and develop the country. Thank you very much.
Ndi Anambra, una potagola.
Ibolachi.
Good morning, Ndi Anambra.
Welcome to Good Morning Anambra Breakfast TV show on ABS TV.